What is up, YouTube? This is McGravy, back at it again with another video, and this is going to be my first sort of non-gameplay video that you'll see on my channel. I'm going to be transitioning my content more towards the Overwatch League. As some of you may or may not know, I was a former Overwatch League player. I played for teams such as the Florida Mayhem and the LA Valiant, mostly the LA Valiant, where I played last season, Season 3, where we had a relatively good season. But I played off tank, so yeah, former Overwatch League player, and I really still enjoy watching the Overwatch League. I enjoy talking about it, so I'm going to be shifting my content more towards that area, and because it's kind of my expertise is the ins and outs of the league. So hopefully that's content you guys enjoy, because I love making it, and you guys can look forward to having that kind of more content on my channel. But today I'm going to be talking about the brand new info that they released after BlizzCon Online wrapped up, and the whole Shock versus the World thing that I also participated in, which you can go check out on the Blizzard channel. But I'm going to be talking about the 2021 season info they dropped, like you see the schedule, the tournaments, all of that. So I'm kind of going to be scrolling through, talking about giving you my thoughts on everything. Guess we just start right off the rip. We're talking about the schedule. They officially announced that the Overwatch League Season 4 season would start on Friday, April 16th. And I think the biggest selling point for me is that they've opened up with two really good matches where they're going to do the Battle for Texas, which I think for me is a really big match to talk about, because these are two completely new teams. As in the past, the Battle for Texas hasn't been as exciting because these teams have kind of kept their cores, and it's kind of been the same lackluster gameplay. But this year, you have the brand new Houston Outlaws, where they've replaced almost everybody besides Dante and Jake. Well, Jake coming back from casting. So those are kind of the two names that you recognize from the Houston Outlaws. But they have a brand new support line in Crimson and Juby, a brand new tank line in Zhangyu and Piggy. So they have all kinds of new players, and they have a new staff. They have Junk Bunk Harsha, which I think is very exciting as well. And the Dallas Fuel, which everybody knows is the Element Mystic remake with Rush and the former Paris players. So Sparkle, Hanbin, Fielder, which is also going to be a very good team. So that's a very exciting match to start off with. And they're also doing Shock versus Gladiators on the first day, which I think is going to be an insane match, because for me, these are two teams that are likely to be within the top three, like almost guaranteed, I feel like, for me. With the big storyline, like I said here, is Moth, who was on the Shock for the last 2 years, winning championships, and now he's on the LA Gladiators, and he's going to be trying to win a championship with them. And, the defending champion Shock, keeping most of their core, picking up a couple other players. They have Glister, for example, which that's something more I'll talk about in the future, but I think Glister's a super underrated pickup. So I think Shock is just as good, if not better, in ways than they were last season, so that'd be a very exciting match to watch. So yeah, scrolling down, we'll take a look at the whole schedule itself here at a later time. We'll scroll down a little bit, and we'll kind of look at it here in a second. We'll talk about the regions real quick. So again, they're doing the East versus West because of the COVID restrictions, right? There's not much they could do about it. They kind of have to keep the region separated. But in the East, as everyone knows, with the whole LA Valiant fiasco, there's going to be 8 teams. So it's going to be Chengdu, The Charge, Spark, Valiant, New York, Excel, Fusion, Dragons, and Seoul. And then the 12 teams are everybody else. It's the Reign, Uprising, Fuel, Mayhem, Outlaws, Spitfire, Glads, the Eternal, the Shock, Titans, Defiant, and the Justice. So nothing too out of the ordinary besides the LA Valiant drama, which I don't want to touch too much on personally, because I have a lot invested into that, and try and keep my bias out of the situation. Believe it or not, I had made a 10-minute rant video that I decided was the best not to post on YouTube, so I ended up making it and deleting it. So yeah, I'm gonna try and steer clear from that topic. But these are the divisions, and to be honest, I don't want to say they're evenly matched. I definitely think the East probably has the higher quality of play in terms of consistency. I think NA has a couple what we'd call bottom feeder teams, or not as skilled, but lower skill ceilings, I would say. So I think East is a really good region, barring maybe the Valiant, depending on their roster, which hasn't been announced yet. But yeah, I think both two very good divisions. I think they'll both be very competitive, especially at the top. So going over, let's take a look at the schedule here. And like I said, we've talked about the match before. Let's talk about the entire day, the entire weekend, and we'll kind of scroll through, and I'll give you my thoughts on some of the matches. Like I said, Battle for Texas, very exciting. The LA battle or California battle as well. And you have Charge versus Dragons, which for me might be a sleeper match. I think Charge is kind of underrated in the APAC region, and Shanghai still very good, but I think Charge has a good shot at playing that match. And then this will be an interesting one, actually, believe it or not. The Valiant versus Chengdu. I think this is interesting for me because this is, if you were to coin it, the battle for China, because the rumors are the Valiant is going to be having a full Chinese team. And while that's not 100% confirmed, that is the rumors. So it'll be very interesting to see Chengdu, which is also a full Chinese team, take on another Chinese team and kind of see how they stack up against each other. And then we have Fusion versus Seoul, which is also another big question mark for me. I think Fusion has made a lot of changes, but I think a lot of people aren't sure if it's a net positive or a net loss or maybe a kind of a side grade for their roster. Mono for Sato is a big change. Fury and having Poco step as the permanent off tank is a big change. Shockwave coming in is a big change. Losing Hisu, Ivy, like they lost a lot of talent, but they also brought in a lot of talent. So you have to see how 9K shapes up that roster. But I think a lot of people have faith in 9K, so I do as well. So it'll be a good match. And then Seoul, also another interesting team, because for me, Seoul has always been the destroyer of off tanks, right? They've always had off tanks, and they've always ended up putting them for the wayside for Marvel, and Marvel has just been the player they like to play. But I think this year, I think 2U is the truth, and I think Seoul has finally found the off tank where they can place their trust in and say, hey, take the reins, play the role. So I think Seoul this year, out of all the years, if Seoul's going to be consistent for this year, it's me. So I'm excited to see if Seoul can finally put their foot down and stop being so hot and cold, and if they can finally settle down to be a consistent team, a consistent contender. Toronto versus Defiant should be an okay match. It'll be interesting to see how good or bad the Titans can be with their roster. Atlanta Reign versus the Florida Mayhem. Also another exciting match, because last year these two were very evenly matched, and I think these two have kept a pretty sizable chunk of their core. I think for me the big standout is OG from the Florida Mayhem. See how he vibes with that team, and the Atlanta Reign with their new DPS. I think they have an insanely talented DPS line in Kai and Pelican. And if those two can get on the same page and perform at the levels that I know they can, this team can be very, very, very scary. Continuing on, we'll have Fuel versus Gladiators, which will be kind of a mix-up from the two matches here before. We'll kind of switch it up. It'll be interesting to see how these two play each other. Again, two very talented teams. With Glads, I think, for me, it's a top 3 team, and Dallas arguably a top 5. So it'd be interesting to see how they segment each other. Again, another match, Charge versus Seoul, should be good. I think almost every East APAC match should be very good. Chengdu versus Shanghai. It'd be interesting to see if Chengdu's new upgrades, specifically, I think Gaga from Team CC coming over to Chengdu, see how he can make an impact on the team versus the highest skill teams in the league. Not much to say about this one. This would be the new predicted Chinese team versus Fusion. To be interesting to see. I think this is very cool. Earlier it was Fuel versus Glads, and then here it's Outlaws versus Shock. So you'll kind of take the battle for Texas and the battle for California, whatever you want to call it, the California Cup, and you kind of switch it up here, and you'll have the Outlaws play the Shock and the Fuel play the Glads. So these will both be key matches to watch as well. Again, for me, whenever the Titans plays, it's not really how close it's going to be. It just kind of to what level will the Titans play it up to. I have a lot of faith in Florida, not so much in Vancouver. So we'll have to see how these guys play. And then another match in Toronto versus Atlanta, which should be good, but not too many noticeable storylines. So an interesting, action-packed weekend. A lot of good matches. So it'll be very fun to watch, and I'll be watching very closely and hopefully making some content for it. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the season tournament format. I think the biggest compliment that I can give towards the Overwatch League staff is that they were very open to change a lot of things last year. I think last year was very tough because of COVID, and they had to completely change the way the season was formatted. And I think they were very open and honest and willing to listen to feedback and change the way they did things. And they're also willing to take from other leagues as well. I think they saw the success of the CDL doing tournaments, and they're like, well, that looks great. That looks like that looks really good. And they implemented that last season very quickly, and I think it was a major success. I had a lot of fun at playing in the tournaments. I think every tournament was very intense for me as a player, so I'm sure every other player feels the same way. So it looks like they're going to be doing 4 tournament cycles with every team playing 4 matches with each cycle to see where they kind of qualify and seed in the tournaments. So that's very cool. It gives teams a very fair shot to get properly seeded into each match. And then like last year, it'd be the May Melee. I don't remember if they called it the June Joust, but I remember the Summer Showdown and the Countdown Cup. I can't recall if June Joust was a thing last year. I don't think it was, but I could be wrong on that. But good name for it. I like the MM, the JJ, the SS, and the CC. It's very cool. And I think the big selling point this year is the cross-region play, the regional play here. It says teams from both regions will compete in the 4 tournaments. In the West, the top 6 qualifying teams will play a round of knockout matches, with 2 teams advancing to tournament weekend. In the East, the top 4 qualifiers played on the 2 teams. The top 2 teams in the East and the West will then play in a double elimination bracket to determine a tournament champion. So cross-region gameplay, which is absolutely the biggest improvement from last season to this season, because last year it was kind of, okay, each region plays separately, and to the very end, at the very end, we'll figure out which region is quote-unquote better, right? And then you kind of had disappointments where teams that looked very, very good in one region couldn't really play to the same level at the finals, right? I'm particularly talking about the Philadelphia Fusion, who were very, very dominant in the West, and then they came over to the East and did the tournament in Korea, and it was pretty lackluster. They had pretty poor showing. So it'd be cooler to see the results early on in the season. You kind of get a better feel for how the teams stack up against each other from each region. And they say health and safety and travel conditions permitting, the top 2 West teams will travel to Hawaii for tournaments where they are playing against the top 2 teams. Okay, so that's how they're kind of gonna do it. It's gonna have the kind of the middle ground, because you have the East over here, and you have Hawaii in the middle, and the West over there. So kind of the middle ground, kind of even travel. So it's a respectable place to hold it. And I'm sure for the players, Hawaii is an excellent location to be holding tournaments. So should be a lot of fun for the players. And then they changed how league points work. I think by a little bit. So they say this season we're shifting to a new scoring system for standings that awards league points for qualifiers and tournament wins. Each team plays 16 qualifier matches throughout the season, and each one is worth 1 league point, right? So if you win all 16 of your qualifiers, you get 16 points, which I think is a lot. And teams that qualify and win the tournaments can acquire additional points as follows. So if you place high, so this is very good because it incentivizes not only getting good seeding, but winning every match, because winning each match gets you a point towards the end of the season, which is good. So if you won every tournament and every match, so you get 16 points, and then you've won it 4 times, you get 28 points. So I think that's the max that people can get is 28 points for the season, at least leading to the playoffs. So seems good. I don't really see an issue with the way this works. I think it's very fair. And they say within each tournament cycle, any wins during the 3 weeks of qualifiers will accrue league points to determine seeding qualification. Okay, so a team might not qualify for the May Melee tournament, but can qualify for the June Joust tournament if they perform well in the qualifier matches for that tournament cycle. So it's kind of like last season, where some teams qualify for some tournaments and some didn't, which I think is good, because I don't think every team should be in a tournament. I think a tournament is should be the best of the best. I think the biggest thing that I didn't like was last season, where teams played very poorly all season and they still got a chance to. That's a whole other salty topic that I could talk about that I'll kind of avoid. But I like it when the playoffs actually mean something. Well, last year, because of COVID and all the situations, they had all the teams playing the playoffs, which I think was a little scuffed. So I like the way they're doing it now. And speaking of playoffs, they're going to be talking about playoffs here. All league points accrued throughout the season will be used to determine the qualification and seeding for the playoffs. At the end of the regular season, the top 3 teams in the West region and top 2 teams from the East region will directly qualify to the playoffs. A play-in tournament for each region will qualify an additional 3 teams, 2 from the West and 1 from the East, into the remaining spots in the 8-team double elimination bracket. Very, very good. I think this is how it should be. Playoffs should not be every single team gets a chance. You should have to work your way throughout the season to get a chance at playoffs. So the total spots will be 5 from the West and 3 from the East, which is fair given the divide of teams. So I like the 8 out of 20 teams getting playoffs. I think that's very good. No complaints here. And now they're going to talk about broadcast times. So they're going to be doing broadcast times at 12, which I think is fair. I think they try and do the times where it's accessible for everybody around the world whenever possible. And then again, doing the YouTube channel. And if I remember correctly, they have YouTube clips coming up soon, or not soon, or maybe I've already implemented. And account syncing. So potentially drops, potentially clips, which I think is a very, very big for the league to have if you're going to have Overwatch League on YouTube. I think it's very important that you have those things because drops are a major selling point for the league. And clips are a major selling point for any broadcasting platform. Here they show the prize pool. And, I mean, this is one thing that Overwatch League has always done very well. It's a very high-paying, very lucrative job. I mean, SF Shock, probably players have made likely millions, close to millions, because they've won each year. But, again, $1.5 million for the winner, $700,000 for second. Tournament is also, if you win every tournament, you make an extra $400,000 for your team, and that's nothing to scoff at. So, there's a lot of money on the line. $4.2 million. That's quite a lot. So, got in the Overwatch League I think they've increased it actually. I think they put more money into the prize pool, the prize pot this year, which is good. Hero pools and map pools. It's interesting. Let's talk about hero pools really quick. We'll see what they say. The hero pools system is a rotation of playable heroes intended to showcase more. Yep, hero pools. Hero pools will use for 2 of the 4 tournaments. So I haven't read this before. This is me reading it for the first time. They're doing 2 of the 4 tournament cycles, the June Joust and the Countdown Cup. So they'll only be doing it 2 of them, which is interesting. And so that means they'll also do it for the qualifiers and the matches. So all of the matches. So the 4 matches, the 4 qualifiers, and the tournament matches, you'll have hero pools. And in the playoffs, there will not be hero pools in the May Melee and the Summer Showdown, which is interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about that decision. I feel like if you're gonna do hero pools, you should just stick to your guns. But I would prefer none, or I would prefer none at all, or have them. I don't know if I like the 50-50, but we'll have to see how it goes throughout the season. How they select the heroes. Let's see how they select the heroes this season. Heroes are randomly selected from a group of eligible heroes based on play rate data from the previous tournament cycle of Overwatch League matches. Okay, I kind of understand now how they're doing this. So they'll have the tournaments where you don't have hero pools, and then they'll take the data from those tournaments, and they'll randomly ban from those heroes to kind of shake up the meta a little bit. Okay, that's interesting. I kind of understand why they do the 50-50 now that I read it more. I'm not sure if I'm a fan though, but we'll have to see how it goes throughout the season. And then they're interesting map pools. Well, not interested. They've always had map pools. You always had set maps. 14 maps. I'm interested to see if they have Paris and what's the other map that they took out? Lunar. They don't. I'm not I don't know what if Blizzard has publicly stated about those 2 maps, about Paris and Lunar, but they have just completely just wiped those maps out for whatever reason. So I think those are the only maps that aren't in here. I could be mistaken. I could be missing a few maps here, but there's a lot of maps in here, and Paris and Lunar don't seem to be in here, so that's interesting. Interesting move. But yeah, they showed the map pool, which none of this is out of the ordinary. This is very standard Overwatch gameplay. So there's nothing really to see here. During the 4 tournaments, the first map will be chosen by the higher seeded team. I think that's very normal. The almost control map, again, normal. Always start with control. And then the loser picks map, also very normal. So yeah, that about wraps up the whole the old Overwatch League Season 4 wrap up, the talk through here. it's a lot of info to process. This is a longer video than I anticipated it would be, but I'm very excited for the Overwatch season. Like I said, as a player, as a former player, and now as a potential coach, I have a very keen interest in the Overwatch League. I very much love Overwatch and talking about Overwatch. So if you like these kind of videos, hate to sell out, but make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment saying how much you like these kind of videos. I do love talking about Overwatch, and I'm hoping to bring more kind of content like this to my channel. So that being further said, gonna wrap up the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.